This image is the furthest image of Earth taken from space. As you gaze upon it, there's this feeling of being pulled away from our planet. A kind of unease creeps in, like you're drifting into an endless expanse. It's like sinking into a deep ocean, slowly getting further from the surface, from what's familiar into the great unknown. It's not just lonely out there, it's suffocating. Seeing the sheer vastness of empty space in our universe is Space has always freaked people out. Early astronauts were scared they'd lose their minds up there, calling it space madness. It kind of makes sense when you think about it. Space is basically a giant death trap. Step out without a spacesuit and your blood would go crazy, blocking circulation. Your brain would freak out from the lack of oxygen, and before you know it, you're out cold and dead soon. After just 9 seconds, game over. Even if you survive, space travel means being stuck in a tiny capsule for ages, surrounded by darkness. You gotta deal with anxiety, mood swings, and all sorts of emotional drama up there. As a kid, I used to wonder what it would be like to journey into space, and after knowing this unsettling experience would happen, I wondered, how did it feel? What happened to that first astronaut, or even the first living thing? Then, I found out that the first living thing to orbit Earth was a dog named Laika. Laika was part of a Soviet experiment to see how space affects living beings. But her trip was meant to be a one-way ticket. She was sent up in a tiny metal capsule, basically a little space coffin. Before her launch, one of the mission scientists, Vladimir Yazadovsky, took Laika home to play with his children. They thought she'd run out of oxygen, but instead the capsule got too hot. Laika's heart rate accelerated to 3 times its usual rate. The last thing Laika probably heard was Vladimir saying, "Please forgive us." Can you imagine how scared she must have been? And I can't help but wonder if she felt betrayed. Did she understand enough to feel that way? It's a tough thought to swallow.
Hearing about Laika's story filled me with deep, primal anger. Working with animals brings us all pain. We treat them like little babies who can't speak up. They didn't learn enough from this mission to make it worth the dog's life.
But anyway, RIP to her. Now, once you're out there in space, moving away from your Mother Earth, you meet the real nightmares like gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn. You feel this overwhelming sense of intimidation. If, hypothetically, Earth were to drift too close to a planet like Jupiter, don't expect some asteroid-like collision. We'd simply get burnt up and swallowed by Jupiter's massive atmosphere. Our planet would just vanish without a trace, wiped out from the cosmos. Plus, these gas giants don't even have a solid surface to stand on. There's no ground that humans could technically set foot on, nothing remotely terrestrial. If, by some crazy chance, you got caught in Jupiter's gravity and started falling towards it, it'd be a terrifying, anxiety-inducing death. You'd be swallowed by miles of clouds until the sunlight fades and you're plummeting endlessly into darkness. Then the pressure builds up, crushing your body like a cockroach. And we don't even know how to make a spacesuit that would do any good. Saturn may look like a dreamy destination to visit someday, with its beauty and majestic size, but don't be fooled. Just like Jupiter, it can murder you in the blink of an eye. The temperature there is bone-chilling, minus 177 degrees centigrade. Remember our friend Cassini? In 2017, it took a dive into Saturn. Of course, Cassini stood no chance against Saturn's crazy atmospheric pressure. So down it went, becoming a part of Saturn's atmosphere forever. But it left us with recorded sounds of Saturn. Check this out. Imagine fragments of Cassini, the only human-made object on Saturn, just drifting through its atmosphere, circling the planet for hundreds of thousands of years, never to be touched by another soul again. The idea of being stranded in such a desolate place for eternity is downright depressing.
Come on, man, enough with this. It's just a piece of metal. We've got killings happening every day right here, too.
Wait, what?
Yes, kids get killed all the time on Earth, didn't you know?
Yeah, sadly, human children are just seen as clusters of cells.
But put those same cells on Mars and suddenly they're considered valuable life.
Yeah, that's right. So falling into gas giants or any other planet, even those crazy exoplanets outside of our solar system, can be a real nightmare. Rocky worlds we've discovered, whether molten, frozen, don't terrify me nearly as much as ocean worlds. If I ever found myself floating alone above something like the Mariana Trench, I'd feel an overwhelming sense of terror and an adrenaline-filled need to escape the water immediately. That's why ocean worlds give me the primal sense of unease and make me shiver in my own skin. One of the most promising candidates for such a place is the exoplanet GJ1214b, often referred to as the Water World. It's a super-Earth-type planet located relatively close at 48 light-years away. It's made up of a global liquid water ocean with an atmosphere possibly composed of hydrogen, helium, and water vapor. Plus, this global ocean likely reaches all the way down to the planet's core. The idea of a planet's core hidden beneath miles of dark water so terrifies me. Even beyond staring into the abyss of an ocean touching a planet's core, my mind races with ideas about the planet's marine environment. What vast networks of shallow and deep trenches and reefs must exist on such a planet? What underwater ranges and canyons could be discovered? And the most eerie question of all, what sort of life could you expect to find? With such a deep and extreme environment, the life forms could be unimaginably strange and horrific. On Earth, the deepest known ocean depth is only about 7 miles, and even at that depth, life forms are bizarre and unearthly. Imagining what lies hundreds of miles below the sea, or the eerie isolation of such a strangely familiar yet different environment, is creepy.
The thought of there being no creatures is probably even creepier. I'm so terrified of an ocean-only planet. There's no land on the entire planet. And if you sink, there's no hope. There's only water.
But let me tell you one thing. When it comes to weird, horrifying stuff in our universe, planets ain't got nothing on the sheer terror of black holes. I mean, getting sucked into one of those, that's the nightmare of all nightmares right there. They're just these menacing points of darkness, so massive they can swallow entire solar systems. Take Ton 618, for example. It's the largest black hole we've ever observed, a whopping 66 billion times larger than our sun. They're so strange. Nothing can escape their pull. Time itself gets all warped near them. If you want to know how mankind will face the apocalypse or whether humans could ever make it to Mars, just fall into one of these suckers. A couple of minutes near a black hole is enough to witness millions of years of change.
Time dilation is horrifying. Falling into a supermassive black hole, by the logic of time warping, would make you the oldest biological organism to have ever lived, outliving several planets in just a few hours. I feel like we could theoretically create a time machine if we can learn more about how and why black holes are warped.
And they're so strong they will pull you apart millions of miles before you even get close to them. You're gonna get spaghettified. But don't worry, the nearest black hole is about 1,500 light years away, called Gaia BH1. That's so far away that, for comparison, the furthest craft from Earth, Voyager 1, is only 1 light day from Earth after decades of being in flight. But that number is still nothing. The universe is so much emptier than we realize. Our galaxy is 100,000 light years across. Man, what does that number even mean? Galaxies are such massive structures, the scale of just one of them is beyond human comprehension. They're so massive that we can't even properly picture them in our minds. But if you zoom out, there's a local group of galaxies consisting of about 40 galaxies, including the Milky Way and Andromeda. But as you zoom out, the scale becomes much more terrifying. Our own local group is just a small part of a larger cluster of galaxies, the Virgo supercluster. This massive structure is made up of an estimated 100 local groups, containing about 100,000 individual galaxies. But Virgo's just the tip of the spear of an even grander structure, the Laniakea supercluster. This structure includes not only Virgo, but several smaller superclusters and voids, one of which the Milky Way is part of. That's chilling to think about. Laniakea is huge, right? So huge it seems hard to imagine anything bigger, but the scale can still get much, much bigger. Laniakea itself is only a small fraction of an even larger structure known as the Pisces-Cetus supercluster complex, a type of galactic filament. Aside from just having an intimidating and kind of badass name, galaxy filaments are scary in their sheer size. Filaments are so enormous that we can't even be sure some of the ones we've discovered actually exist, as they seemingly destroy our understanding of how large universal structures can possibly be. Nowhere is this more apparent than with the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. Again, scary but badass name. Sounds like the title of a 90s hip-hop album. If it really exists, it's the largest structure ever discovered in the observable universe. The Great Wall is approximately 10 billion light-years across, meaning light from one end of the structure takes about 10 billion years to reach the other end. I feel like something even scarier is that our observable universe is shrinking. Every day, more and more of the universe is leaving our range of exploration, and there's a terrifying thought.
As humans, we tend to overestimate our own importance, getting caught up in how vast even our own planet seems. But if all the grains of sand from every beach and desert on Earth were equivalent to the universe, Earth wouldn't even be a single grain of sand. We're not even ants in the grand scheme of things. We are small, microscopic, infinitesimal. Analogies fail here. It's hard to even try to wrap our heads around how tiny our planet is. We are impossibly small, impossibly trivial. Isn't that scary?
Wait a sec, did you say humans are trivial? Are you kidding? Is something automatically trivial just because it's small? We're the only intelligent life we're aware of. We are the precise opposite of trivial. We're the only living things that can detect galaxies, develop mathematics and science, and start planning for eventual space travel.
The solar system would be fine without us. We wouldn't be so fine without the sun. I disagree. We are the most important thing in the neighborhood.
But at the end of the day, I gotta admit that Earth may well be the origin of the universe's most rare thing, consciousness. And you know what? It makes me feel even more excited to be alive in such a special part of the universe. There's also something really scary but also sad about space. Because of the vast distances to most stars, we're seeing them as they were thousands of years ago, and they might have been gone for a long time. We're basically seeing their ghosts, remnants of stars and planets that no longer exist. I'll be so real, space just fascinates me. It's so cool we exist in this universe, even if we don't know who, what, how, where, and why. It's a giant, endless mystery, and I love it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you had fun or learned anything, do us a favor. Like, share, subscribe. And until next time, stay safe and stay smart.